worldwide news report with the latest news about Hezbollah. The Middle East on the brink, Hezbollah's leader killed in Israeli airstrikes, fears of regional war grow. In a development that has sent shockwaves through the Middle East, Hezbollah has confirmed the death of its leader, Hassan Nasrallah, in a series of devastating Israeli airstrikes on Beirut. The airstrikes, which pounded the Lebanese capital over the course of Friday and Saturday, have left the city reeling, its people in fear, and the region teetering on the edge of a wider conflict. Nasrallah's death, a turning point in the conflict. The assassination of Nasrallah, a key figure in Hezbollah's fight against Israel, has dramatically escalated tensions between Israel and its regional enemies, sparking concerns that the long-standing hostilities could erupt into a full-scale war. The militant leader's death was confirmed after Israeli jets struck areas in Beirut that Israel says Hezbollah uses to hide military operations within civilian neighborhoods. The strikes came after days of relentless bombardment, which has turned once bustling streets into war zones and caused widespread panic. The repercussions of Nasrallah's killing are reverberating far beyond Lebanon. Both Lebanon and Iran, Hezbollah's staunchest backer, have declared several days of mourning, with Iranian leaders vowing to stand in solidarity with Hezbollah. But mourning is only part of the response. Hezbollah has sworn to continue its battle against Israel, leaving the question on everyone's mind: what comes next? Airstrikes turn Beirut into a battleground. Beirut, a city that has long been haunted by war, is once again in the grip of terror. Israeli airstrikes have hammered the capital and southern Lebanon, killing hundreds and wounding many more. The skies over the city have been filled with the eerie sound of warplanes, while plumes of smoke rise from buildings that once housed families, businesses, and schools. According to Lebanon's government, more than 1,000 people have been killed since the air raids began last week. One of the most horrifying realities for Beirut citizens is the randomness of the destruction. Entire neighborhoods have been reduced to rubble, and with Hezbollah operating in secret, civilians have found themselves caught in the crossfire. Warnings from the Israeli military to evacuate areas where Hezbollah might be present have come too late for many. People have been left scrambling to find shelter, with hundreds of families sleeping on beaches or in public squares. As night falls over the city, the skyline is darkened not just by the absence of light, but by fear and uncertainty. Displacement and desperation. The scale of the displacement is staggering. Hundreds of thousands of Lebanese have fled their homes, many of them from southern Lebanon, seeking safety wherever they can find it. But in a country already struggling with political instability and economic collapse, there is little relief for those who have lost everything. Makeshift camps have sprung up, and families huddle in public spaces, uncertain when or if they will ever return to their homes. "We have nowhere to go," one Beirut resident said, standing outside what remained of her apartment building. "We can't escape because the strikes happened so suddenly. There's no time." This sentiment is echoed by countless others, left behind in a city that feels like it is crumbling under the weight of a conflict far larger than themselves. The threat of ground war looms. As if the airstrikes weren't enough, Israel is now considering a new phase in its military campaign: a ground invasion into Lebanon. U.S. officials have acknowledged the possibility of a limited incursion, but they stress that no decision has yet been made. Still, Israeli forces have been amassing at the northern border, and the military has stated it is preparing for such an operation. If Israel decides to go forward with a ground invasion, it would mark the fourth time in 50 years that Israeli troops have crossed into Lebanon, and the consequences could be devastating. The Israeli Defense Forces have made it clear that they are prepared to continue their campaign to dismantle Hezbollah's infrastructure, no matter the cost. Hezbollah's silence and the future of the group. For now, Hezbollah's response has been relatively muted. The militant group, backed heavily by Iran, has yet to launch a significant counterattack, but that silence could be a calculated move. Analysts suggest that Hezbollah may be waiting, assessing its losses and determining how to strike back most effectively. One thing is certain: Hezbollah is far from defeated. Even with Nasrallah gone, the group retains significant military capability, and its next move could dramatically shift the region's balance of power. Yet, there is also uncertainty within Hezbollah itself. Nasrallah's death leaves a leadership vacuum, and the group now faces the challenge of selecting a new leader in the midst of ongoing conflict. Whoever takes the helm will inherit not only the responsibility of avenging Nasrallah's death but also the task of navigating Hezbollah through one of the most perilous moments in its history. Iran's outrage and global concern. Iran, Hezbollah's most powerful ally, has reacted with fury. Iranian officials have condemned Israel's actions, and the country's envoy to the United Nations has called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. Tehran is pushing for a global condemnation of Israel's strikes and is demanding that the international community hold Israel accountable for what it describes as crimes against humanity. But beyond rhetoric, the world watches nervously. The Middle East is already a tinderbox, and the killing of Nasrallah threatens to ignite a much wider war. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who faces intense pressure from both the US and Europe to de-escalate the situation, has only doubled down. In remarks on Saturday, he declared that Israel had reached a historic turning point and took a direct swipe at Iran, accusing the regime of fueling the violence through its proxy, Hezbollah. The road ahead: will the conflict spread? The situation remains fluid and perilous. The killing of Nasrallah may be a victory for Israel in the short term, but it could also prove to be a catalyst for greater violence. Iran's involvement raises the stakes dramatically, and with the potential for a ground war looming, the conflict could spiral far beyond Israel and Lebanon's borders. As Beirut smolders and families continue to flee, one question hangs heavy in the air: is the region about to descend into a full-scale war that could engulf the Middle East in flames? We will update you daily about the war in Israel and Hezbollah. Stay tuned, watch our daily news, and if you haven't subscribed yet, we would appreciate your support with a free subscribe and leave a comment about our news and our work. Thank you all for watching our news video.